We have very heavy rain falling in southeast Texas, and the National Weather Service has just issued a flash flood warning.
It's very treacherous out there. If you're not out, don't go out.
Here in Greens Bayou at West Mount Houston, we have picked up more than 35 inches of rain.
Of all of the flooding events that have impacted Greens Bayou, nobody can point to anything greater than Tropical Storm Allison.
It's the most devastating tropical storm in U.S. history.
Massive flooding, residential apartments, 2,500 demolished down to the studs.
When it was all said and done, Allison killed 41 people. It left 30,000 people homeless, flooded over 70,000 homes, and caused $5.5 billion in damage.
We convened the Greens Point District, the Harris County Flood Control District, the North Houston Association, and Montgomery & Associates Engineering to address these problems.
Could we create an organization that could help implement flood control improvements for this area of Houston?
Joe Wozni had a concept. He said, you know, this bayou is a wonderful waterway.
Can we then create hike and bike trails? Can we create some parkland?
If we could have a series of recreational amenities while we address flood control up and down this bayou.
We saw a real potential for improving the corridor with a little bit more cooperation and coordination among the different entities.
It made sense to partner with other organizations to extend the parks and trails that we had already developed throughout the entire watershed area.
My job was to convince a board of directors of the management district that we needed to financially support the creation of a 501c3 that would become the coalition, and to convince that board to authorize me to hire an executive director, Regina Lindsay.
Regina had the National Park Service come in and work with us to put together a Parks and Trails master plan, which was really kind of the genesis of everything that's happening now.
It shows flooding projects that are involved. It shows the park system and the trail system, and it just essentially lays out a plan for how to proceed within the organization.
The coalition has a huge vision, just a huge vision, and it's going to be probably decades yet before that vision is completely realized.
I'd say our biggest challenge was the federal flood mitigation project and channel improvements, which is known as the Antoine Basin.
Over the years, the Flood Control District and the Corps of Engineers have looked at ways in which flooding could be reduced. A new technique that we've been using as a district is large stormwater detention basins, where we can route floodwaters into, hold temporarily, and then release it back into the streams to sort of cut the peak off of the flood.
It was a project that had been sitting out there for years and years and years as something that needed to happen to help improve the quality of life for the people within that area.
The Greens Bayou Coalition was one of the major players in really lobbying Congress to go ahead and fund this project.
It was 2015 when we were able to actually get this in the president's budget and got fully funded for the entire $58 million project.
As a landscape architect, I can bring maybe a different sense of what a trail can be, and looking at different sites like this basin here, that it can be a park space and not just necessarily a detention basin. The ability to bring the community together, each of our reaches have cleanups and tree planting events.
One of the highlights of my tenure with the coalition was opening the Greens Bayou up to paddlers.
The fact that you can put in here and go 27 miles or so, that's a huge benefit to be able to travel that far.
We bring a lot of kids out there. There's kayaking for kids. There's some other programs where we're bringing kids out to the bayou.
We went out into the bayou to pick up some litter that was left behind.
I didn't know this was here, and it's like such a good experience that a lot of people don't know about.
One of the things we wanted to do is be one of the first parks that installs a canoe launch on the paddle trail.
So this is a good spot for a canoe launch.
Well, you'd want to come right there.
The acquisition of the 33-acre Stanley Preserve, which is the first piece of property that the coalition owns, and allows the coalition to develop a piece of property that will benefit the community around it for educational purposes, for natural resource habitat purposes.
The more properties that the coalition acquires and owns, the better it will be for parks and trails and recreational opportunities, and also it helps reduce potential flooding within those areas, because those are usually floodways or floodplains that are meant to serve as such.
The outreach that the coalition has done in bringing together about 500,000 people to be really more focused on the waterway and to be more educated about the waterway, that has really opened people's eyes up to what Greens Bayou has to offer to the community.
The coalition has done many projects over the last 10 years and has developed into an outstanding organization.
We just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and I think as long as everyone continues to be that diligent within this organization, then we'll continue to soar.
The coalition, in my view, over the next 50 years, should have as its mission the continuing addition of parks and trails, canoe launches, and all other amenities that the communities want all along this 45-mile channel.
And I think that vision will be realized by people joining with the Greens Bayou Coalition and continuing to do those day-to-day activities that brought the coalition to where it is right now.
I think the organization today is far better than when we first started. I think the emphasis on improvements, on creating value to the bayou, is far greater today than it was in the initial. In doing this, I think that we did take something that was an act of God that hurt our region, but now we have a great benefit, and a benefit that will be even better and better in years to come.